what to do after you've hit submit. Like after you've submitted your application, now what? Now what do I do? So several of you graduated on Friday. I know, because I saw you there. And so now what? What do you do now that you graduated? And you got this gap year. What do you do with your time?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Do what you've been doing.
Yeah. Keep volunteering. Yep. Keep volunteering. Please. Keep volunteering. What else can you be doing? Healthcare experience. Yep. Research. Absolutely. What do schools want to see?
That you continue to do this, it's not just about school.
Absolutely. And that your brain is still on that education mode. Does that make sense? You didn't just get a job at Walmart stocking shelves because that's all you could find for that year. Okay? They want to know that you're continuing to do those things. So for those of you who are finishing up your last year of school, your juniors are finishing up your senior year, what are you doing? Does that mean you just kind of rest back on your laurels because I already submitted my application? I'm good. No, you're going to do the same thing. Okay? Just because you've already submitted your grades doesn't mean you don't have to submit your grades from your senior year. You do. Okay? So, you're going to continue with your prerequisite requirements. Some of you will have those still. And then you're going to update the academics in your application as those come available. So once you finish fall semester and those grades come available, you need to update your application because you've now taken more classes and your GPA is different, right? So you need to make sure that you're updating that information. Keep working in healthcare, keep volunteering, keep engaging in the academic work. Research, if you have the opportunity to be doing research, even if it's just right here in good old SUU, do it. Take that opportunity. But again, updating your institutions that you apply to with any new information that you have. Another thing we've got up here is preparing for interviews. I hope you all saw that we're going to be doing a boot camp in July. We sent out that email and no lie, we filled up in 2 hours. So I'm glad that you all saw it. If you were a little slow on that and you didn't get a sign up and you want to, we are looking at doing a second one of those. What that will look like is that you will come, it's actually going to be down at Dixie. You have to remember that our program is associated with not just SUU, but Dixie, Snow, and USU Eastern. So Casey Shakespeare, who works for us down at Dixie, has set this up. You will come just like you're going to an interview at a school. And we will put you through that interview process with mock interviews, interview tips. We'll critique your dress, the way you are dressed, and all of those kind of things to help you prepare. As Rita has talked to schools and we've talked to schools, the thing that they tell us is you have amazing candidates. They look great on paper and then they show up for an interview. And they're not doing so great. So we've taken that to heart. Like, we're serious about helping you prepare for these interviews. We want you to not just look good on paper. We want you to impress from the minute you walk in the door. Okay? So that's what that interview boot camp is about. Again, it is the end of July. Because you'll start with interviews in August. Some of you could start as soon as August. I remember when school started and our peer mentors were like, oh yeah, I have an interview, I have an interview, I have an interview. And I was like, what? Wait, what? School just started. Because I was still new with this. But yeah, you can start interviewing as early as August. So we want to be helping you with that. So be aware with that. One thing here, secondaries. If they send you a secondary, don't sit on it for 2 or 3 months. Get her done. Get it done and resubmitted. Again, we're here to help you with secondaries as well. Not just this first application process, but if you have questions about secondaries, I can't tell you how many times I remember Catherine coming in and talking to Rita about her secondaries. Get them done. Get them written, get them submitted in a timely manner. But be professional at all times. If you are going to reach out to a school that has offered you an interview or contacted you in any way, be professional. If you're replying to an email, don't start out with, hey, so-and-so. Do you know how many times I get an email that says, hey, Amy? Is that professional? It's good, because we're good. But I'm just saying, be professional at all times. And the reason why I say that right now is because, and Haley and I can joke, because Haley and I email back and forth a lot, and she says, hey, Amy, which is good, because we have that relationship. But do you have that relationship with the school? No. You don't. Okay? So how would you address an email?
Doctor, whatever.
Okay? Or if you're just addressing the application department.
Dear school.
Or hello, so-and-so. Okay? If you can find a name, if you've gotten an email from somebody and it has a name on it, address them. Yeah.
It's probably best that you, I mean, if you're really interested in the school, call ahead, build a little bit of a relationship with somebody, and work with them directly. You know, you can't like build a relationship with someone on the admissions board or whatever,
Right.
but in that office, if you've called ahead, asked questions about the program, and if you start sending, if you know who to send it to, or you can ask that person, who can I start sending information to or whatever regarding my interview process or my possible admissions.
Yep. And they're fine with you calling them. Again, that was the information that I got from ICOM, which is Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine. They're newer, but that was the admissions gal that was talking to us, and they said, you know, it's okay to call us. It's okay to call and ask questions. Just be professional when you do. Because Whitney says she'll get that too. Whitney down at Rocky Vista, she'll come and talk to us too. And she'll tell you, she gets students that'll call and be like, hey Whitney, can you tell me? And she's like, you don't know me that well. Hey Whitney. Okay, so be professional. Some of you might know me.
Don't mess up the Mr., Mrs. I mean, there's
Yes.
two Caseys. There's two Caseys, and sometimes I get the
Right?
Mr. Shakespeare.
We have an
and I'm
male
like, that's
Casey
not
and a
me.
female Casey. Make sure you know.
Yeah. And don't say, I mean, I'm not Mrs. LeBoy, and I hate when students do that. It's really irritating.
Ms.
So, yeah.
If
and-
you don't know, address it as Ms.
Yeah, don't do that and just guess, because some people will get really offended by that,
It's true.
you know. And then don't call them a Mr. if they're actually a Mrs. because you got their name wrong. So make sure you know before you say
My
that. you
backyard
know.
neighbors are Stacy and Tracy, or Stacy and Terry. They always know whether the person on the phone calling knows them or not, because she'll answer and they'll ask for Terry. Okay? She's Terry. Her husband is Stacy.
That's
So,
so funny.
know who you're talking to. Do your research. Let's see what else we have on here. So after you apply, here's kind of the options of what. You might hear nothing from the school. Might be a really long time before you hear anything from that particular school. Right? You can be offered a secondary application, which also requires more money from you. Remember that. Secondaries usually have a fee associated with them. Be prepared for that. You could be offered an interview. Awesome. Woo-hoo. Yeah. You could also get that denial. We reviewed your application. Thank you for applying. We're not interested. So again, after your interview, same kind of process. Do we want to jump into this yet, or are we going to wait until we talk about
We can wait.
more about interviews
Yeah.
on that? So just some things to be thinking about after you hit that submit. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't think, I'm good. Okay? You still have an interview, more than likely. You're going to get an interview with at least one school, if not 5 or 6. That was the other thing that I thought was awesome with our peer mentors. They were constantly sending Casey and I a message, hey, I'm going to be out next week, I got an interview. Awesome. Go to those interviews. Check out that school. Take the time to do that. That's another thing you could be doing is school visits. Okay? If you have the opportunity to travel to these schools and check them out before you actually apply to them, do it. Cameron gave us an example, Cameron Smith. That's our PT. Sorry, I'm moving all over the place now. At least trying to film when I'm off. But I can't hold still. Cameron Smith was telling us how he interviewed at, can't remember which school it was, but it's not the one he's going to. And he thought that he liked it. You know, it was good. We could go here. And then he went to the one down in Texas, in Lubbock, Texas, where he's going. And he was like, no, this is it. This is the school. This just feels right. Okay? And I don't know. How many of you came here from somewhere else? Several of you grew up here in Cedar City, but how many of you came here to SUU from somewhere else? Right? Lots of you. Casey came clear from Boston. Casey, why did you come to SUU?
There's a lot of reasons, but it was really cheap, and I loved the area. It was beautiful here. My family did a vacation to Zion's National Park, and we also went to California and to Las Vegas on that trip. And when I was applying to schools, I picked one random school that I told my mom I was going to apply to in the middle of nowhere. And then it was the first school I got accepted to, I got a scholarship, and I was like, no, I don't want to see it, it's too far. And my dad's like, well, we have to go see it. And I stepped on campus, and before I even got a tour, I was like, this is the school I'm going to. I just knew once I got there. And I didn't even want to go, I didn't even want to see it. And I stepped on campus and was like, yep, this is the school for me.
So that could be you. Okay? And they're happy to take you on tours. If you contact them, they're happy to take you on a tour of their school. They want you to come to their school. They want you to apply to their school. Okay? So if you have the financial means to do that, do it. Take that opportunity as well. But again, continue with, and as part of RHS, we will make sure that you're continuing with your 25 hours. But continue with that. Continue with your volunteering. Continue with your job shadowing. Continue with your healthcare experience. Continue with your research. Continue with your leadership. All of those things. Because you can update, right? And for some of you, you will be future casting. Don't future cast and then not do it. Because chances are, when you show up to an interview, they're going to say, so, you put in here that you're, I don't know, president of this fraternity. Tell me about it. Oh, actually, I stepped down from that position. I didn't. Awkward. Okay, so don't put something on your application that you're not willing to do. You're not going to fulfill. So, what you're going to do after you, and I kind of jumped ahead a little bit on this, I think. But just remember that just because you hit submit doesn't mean you're done. Okay? What are you doing? Loan repayment?
Oh, yeah. We'll be back because I've got some questions about it. But, okay, we're just going to go over some loan repayment options, which I think you guys probably know about a few of them because when Andrew King was here, we all know that he got that military scholarship and he kind of chatted about it a little, but I'm going to go over a few other options because there are actually a few different ones that are offered, which is pretty cool. So there's the National Health Service Corps, Loan Repayment Scholarship, the Military Scholarship, the Indian Health Services, State Loan Repayment, and then the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So we'll go through each of those. So what is everyone's biggest fears for grad school? Debt? Okay, what else? Yeah?
The ranking system, because, here, you're ranked amongst your classmates, we tend to be kind of the nerds. But if you're in a graduate program, somewhere you might be in the bottom or the lower rungs, and that could be like a bit of a nice special process.
Think of that. What else? Other fears? Yeah?
So just cost of living in the area for your family, if you have family, well, it's easier if you're on your own. If you're supporting 5 people,
Yeah.
it's a little rough. If you go to California or somewhere like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a little bit scary. Yeah?
Most graduate schools are gonna have a lot for you to learn in a really short amount of time, and I'm concerned that I will need support from either other classmates or faculty, stuff like that, and I want to find a school, kind of like SUU has those resources, that other schools have.
Yep. What else? Anything else? Anybody else have fears? Or are you guys, everybody else is just like, yeah, I'm ready to go, I'm not scared at all? Yeah? Okay, good. And then, okay, so what do you guys think the average debt load is for graduate health students? And it kind of depends on what you're going to. Obviously, we know dental is the most, which is really cool that, Andrew was able to get that scholarship because dental school essentially for him will be completely free. But medical school, it's about, I'm trying to remember Amy, do you remember what the numbers are for all of them? Dental school is about 400,000.
Physician nationally will be in debt about 190,000.
Okay.
University of Utah tuition is about 40,000 per year, so about 160,000 for 4 years. Rocky Vista is 49,000 per year, so that's like a private school.
So that's a lot. And that's not adding on cost of living also, And then, how to keep your cost of living down in grad school. One of the biggest things is, don't go out and buy a new car. Don't overspend. Don't go out and say, oh, well, now I have all this loan and this money that I've borrowed, so I'm going to use it. Try to come up with a, financial plan maybe with your spouse or, on your own. Come up with a plan of how much you're going to spend on, certain things each month to, keep the spending down. Focus on the things you really need and then the things you don't. Maybe you really want those new pair of shoes, but you don't really need them. Okay, so the National Health Service Corps is run by the federal government. It covers all 50 states. It's to serve underserved areas and to place providers where they need nationally. A lot of physicians or PAs or people that you may meet in this community actually may be doing this. They're in the Iron County area or some small areas that are rural and underserved, and they're only here for a certain amount of time, and then once their time is up, they move on to other places. And then it's primary care only. So that's one of the things that a lot of students aren't for. They want to go into cardiology or to be a dermatologist or go into being a plastic surgeon or something like that. They want a specialty. They don't want to go into primary care. We're always for encouraging students to go back into primary care after they graduate because those rural areas really are underserved. There's very few providers in those areas. So this is one option. Covers all 50 states. And the loan repayment provides up to $120,000 to medical students in their final year of school, return for commitment to provide healthcare full-time. And at least for 3 years or half the time, at least 6 years approved at that site. And then the loan repayment primary care up to $50,000 to repay loans in exchange for a 2-year commitment. And then year for year service, so you must complete 2 years, can renew up to 6 or 7 years. And then with primary care, especially in those rural areas, a lot of students will get to do more in rural areas than they'll ever get to do in a big city being in primary care, just because there's less doctors, so they get exposed to more. Yeah.
Is that available to PAs as well as doctors?
Does it say on there? Dental medicine, dental, and family health. I think it does also. I think it also goes for PAs, because I actually went and saw a PA, and I think that's what she was doing. And I think Rita said that it also it counts for them as well. Because I don't know if it says in there, it doesn't. But yeah, so if you are thinking about doing primary care and family medicine, and you want to work in a rural area, you're interested in, maybe you're from a rural area and you want to go back there, or you've lived in a rural area before and you want to go back there, something like that. It is kind of cool because you will get more exposure to different things that you wouldn't get being a primary care doctor, in a city and stuff like that, or even in specialized care with, primary care and family practice, you'll get different options. And then scholarships, physicians, dentists, nurse practitioners, and PAs. There's the answer to that question. Pays tuition, fees, and educational costs, and provides a living stipend, $2,000 a month. So that's pretty good. If this is something that you're interested in, it is pretty good. And then I'll go back because I think it has, there's the website of how to apply and things like that, apply for the program and scholarships. So they have a whole website on here of how to go in and apply. Yeah?
Can I just add, so I used to live in St. George, and my wife's boss was a PA, and they would go to Canab. His normal office was in St. George, and he worked in, satellite areas several times a month or whatever. And I'm just thinking that, I'm just voicing that you don't have to necessarily live in Enterprise or something. You might live in St. George and then work, somewhere else that's in the surrounding area that's a rural underserved area.
Yep. Yeah.
So you don't have to, buy the farm.
Right. Yeah.
When would be until it's time to apply for this?
No, you've got to be accepted into a program before you can apply.
Yeah. So it looks like the opening for it. Let's see. Apply for the program.
For that scholarship, yeah.
Apply through May 16th.
But those are people that know they've been accepted.
Yeah. So I guess once you've been accepted to a program,
Then you could apply for
is
that.
then when you can apply.
It's the same for military, you have to be accepted.
Yes.
Right, you
Yes,
have to be
it's the same for
accepted
the
in the
military,
program.
exactly. So for all, I think it's actually for all of these loan repayment options, you have to be accepted in order to, because why would you apply if you haven't actually been accepted to a school? And then the downsides with this, not a lot of choice in terms of areas to serve, and then like I said, no specialties, it has to be in primary care. But the benefit is that you don't have any debt, 0 debt at all. So that's another, that's pretty awesome with us telling you how expensive it is to go to medical school or dental school or PA school. Whatever it is, it's still going to be a large expense, and unless you come from a really rich family and your parents are going to pay for it, or you're a trust fund kid, it's going to be really expensive. Yeah.
So did they assign you a location, right off the bat?
Yeah, I don't.
Or did they give you a few choices and stuff?
I don't think they give you any choice. I think that they pick where you. Yeah.
That might be scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
North Dakota.
Same with the military.
Well, you may be able to pick a state and
Yeah.
to give them your,
right.
your choices. But I think ultimately they probably choose for you. Like Natalie's in the process right now of recertifying the majority of the counties in Utah, as far as she's contacting all of these physicians and dental practices to make sure, to see, because there's a HRSA designation. So that determines whether or not there is loan repayment options in that area. Does that make sense? And that's based on how many physicians there are versus how many people there are in the community. And so Natalie's working on that right now. And that's why we say we're connected with this, because we are connected to HRSA as far as that goes. And so that's why I say the majority of the state of Utah is going to have HRSA designations. It just is. We're a rural community. So if you're wanting to come back to Utah, it may be okay, except that you've got to live in Monticello and work in that rural area for 3 years, you know. But you're in the state of Utah, so.
And then the military scholarship, again, the downside of that is that, yeah, there also is little to placement of where you will be going, and you do have to serve your military term after you have graduated. But the Army pays for up to...
Hey guys, there's a lot of chatter. I can't even hear Casey, because all I can hear is you guys, please.
So the U.S. Army pays for 100% of tuition and living stipend. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Again, you are joining the military. That's not for everyone, but there are multiple ways to get loan repayment for, you know, going to school, whether it's dental or medical or PA, PT, any of that stuff. And then after school, you receive $2,000 a month. Opportunities for a sign-on bonus up to $2,000. When they came, the recruiters came and talked. They also told us that you'd be a higher rank once you're out of school than most people that have been in even longer than you, just because you would be considered a doctor or a dentist, an officer. Thank you.
You're an officer.
Yes, you would be an officer in the Army once you get out, which includes you making more money, which is pretty cool. If you guys were at the presentation that they gave this is probably just a review, and they obviously know way more than me because they're in the military. So year for year service, and then these are the options that they have. So medicine, dentistry, veterinary, psychiatric nurse, optometry, psychology. I think they also said PA and PT. So I mean, they'll take just about anybody. And then there's also, so it's the Army and the Navy, they both offer a program. I haven't heard the Navy speak, so I can't give what I know about them except for what's on here. The max loan repayment of $40,000 a year. I don't know if we've had an Navy recruiter come and speak to anybody, but they also offer one. Must be enrolled the following year and approved residency program leading to medicine or dentistry. It's not one of those things, yeah.
I was just going to say the Air Force does it too.
Yeah, okay, and the Air Force, yeah.
I have researched the Air Force quite a bit, because they accept people a little bit older.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway, but, so when you, just to visit the topic of when you get in as an officer, so you're not making like as much as a private doctor or private PA would make. You're making the rank salary, which isn't going to be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to be like $50,000 or $60,000 for the first year, and then you move up a little bit at a time every like 6 months, and then you serve your time, and then you can get out if you want to, and then go make private pay scale. But then all your debts are paid.
Right.
So
so
anyway, it's a draw.
Yeah. So that's the thing to think about. Yes, maybe you'll get out of school, you'll have a ton of debt, but you'll get a really good paying job. Where in the military, if you choose that option, you have no debt, but you don't make a ton of money once you're fresh out of school. Just kind of something to think about. And then the Air Force, most competitive, which I didn't know that. And then one of the things people always worry about if they're going into medicine and then they're going to be, a doctor in the military is, their fear of like, oh well, I don't want to be out in combat. And it's like you're not a medic. You're not going to be going out, on deployments and on, in combat zones. You're going to be at a hospital. Even if you're in another country, you're not going to be in the war zone. You're not a medic. They have medics that are in the military that do that. So it's not anything to really be stressed about, especially if you're going into dental. They're not going to put you anywhere that's super unsafe because you are going to be in a hospital. It's a little bit different. So that's something to think about, because I know students asked and they were kind of afraid of that. But you're not going to be out in the
It's always on like a
field
base.
work. Yes, yeah. People aren't gonna be shooting at you, well, hopefully, but. And then, again, if you don't love the military, if you do it for the love of the military, not just because you want the money. You are joining the military. That is something to remember. And for Andrew, he said that was something that he wanted. He had grandparents and his dad and his brother in the military, and that was something that he wanted to do. He wanted to give back, to people in the military. So, like I said, it's not for everybody. And then there's the Indian Health Services, and all of these pages have the link, so you can go to them and look if you want. And then Indian Health Services, that's another one that you can go on and look at. Did anybody go on the Four Corners trip? Raise your hand if you were on the Four Corners trip.
Nobody? You've been on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. This is a huge option in the United States. Work in a clinic on the Native American reservation. Several actually are in Cedar City. Pays well, plus the loan repayment of $60,000 a year. Like the Paiute tribe, that's one of the places. I've actually gone and seen one of the doctors there, and he's really great. I think he actually came through our Rural Health Scholars Program, and Rita knows him. Careful of being sent to a very remote area if you've been to Four Corners. Very remote, kind of the middle of nowhere. Native American heritage, additional scholarship opportunities. And then to place providers where they're needed across the state, rural physician loan repayment program. Utah's not well funded. I think this is one of the things that they may possibly be doing away with. I think that was what Casey, Shakespeare, and Rita said last year. But I think right now it's still an option. Yeah, it looks like they're still on here. Data Lifeline Network. Run by the State Office of Rural Health, which our office is actually involved with as well. We do a whole lot of things besides just RHS stuff. Specialists and primary care, so in this option you would be able to specialize in something. And then repayment max of $30,000 a year, half paid by the hospital and then half by the state because it is a state-funded program. And then the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Loan forgiveness after you make 120 qualifying payments. I think this is one that they actually offer for a couple of different grad programs. I think even for not related to medicine, they offer this. If you make 120 qualifying payments, they'll pay the rest off if you go through a nonprofit, work for a nonprofit, or Intermountain Healthcare community clinics. And then there's 3RNet, which our office is also involved with. Carrie Torgerson, who works at our Snow office at Snow College, is actually involved with 3RNet. So she does a lot of student placement and kind of, they're like headhunters. They pretty much will find you a job. Going into healthcare, normally it's not hard to find a job, but if you are looking in specific places, this is another option to look at. And again, there's the website on there. And residents signing jobs earlier and earlier with 3RNet. It is a really successful program, and Carrie does a fantastic job with placements and things.
But look
like
at that statistic, 58% of Utah physicians are retiring in the next 10 years.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
We're in a crisis.
So we want to make more doctors and dentists and PAs and yeah.
On the last slide, it said that millennials jump around in 10 years.
Yep.
How does that connect to the public service loan?
You've got to be in you've got to make 120 qualifying payments on a loan, which means you've got to be in that area for 10 years.
So either a
That's 10 years,
nonprofit
120 payments would be, yep, because
or
that's one
a
monthly payment
or community
Yeah.
for
clinic.
10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And millennials don't tend to stay that long.
Yeah. Yep. So, internet. And then, do your homework. If you're really wanting to pick a career in medicine that has a really big income, you probably should be looking at the specialties and how much they make on average, and this is easy, you can just Google this. What about PA, what about a dentist? You know, look at your future and see how much you are gonna have to repay, how much you're gonna make when you get out. You know, see if any of these programs are something that you'd be interested in. But the fact that there's, you know, multiple different options to have school paid off, the loans paid off, or, you know, have school be free, there are things to definitely look into. And then debt management, don't work in graduate school, maybe, unless you're pharmacy, maybe you have a spouse who's gonna be working, that'll be super helpful, because for you to work while you're in medical school or dental school or whatever, it's not an option, it's just, yeah, you'd just be way too busy. Same in undergrad, work less so you can focus on your grades. A lot of times we have students come in and they say, oh, I've been working so much and that's why I haven't done any of my assignments and my grades are bad. And it's like, well, what's your goal? Do you want to go to medical school? Do you want to be a doctor? Or do you care more about this job that you have? You know, I get that a lot of you will have debt already from undergrad, but your grades are what's important if that's really your end goal, is to be in healthcare. Take out loans as needed. Don't take out more than you need. Never take out more than you need. And then consider there is interest rate with subsidized and unsubsidized. I think, isn't it only one of them is for undergrad and then one is for grad? I think that's what it is. So subsidized is for grad school and unsubsidized you can use for your undergrad. Get private loans only when federal loans run out, and consider family costs. So, you know, when you're looking at the places that you want to go to school, if you do have a family, you need to be looking at housing and, you know, how expensive is it to live in this area? What am I going to need today I can take out for loans? And, you know, don't just say, I'm just going to go to the school and just figure it out, because that's not a good plan. And then, any other questions? I don't know if you want to add anything about loan repayment.
Not really. Unless you have questions about it, happy to share. I will just echo the comment that you made about working in grad school. Unfortunately, grad schools are pretty emphatic that they don't want you to work while you're in grad school. We've had a few students who have thought, well, I can do that and I'm going to save some money. And I actually had a student that worked as a nurse practitioner while in med school. Unfortunately, that student had to repeat the first year of med school. Do you know how much that cost? Over $50,000. That student did not make $50,000. So, you know, if you don't make it through grad school your first year, you have to repeat. And when you repeat, you pay for that year again. So please, please, please value the time that you have to spend on your academics. Yeah.
Some schools even have to sign a contract that says that you won't pick up a job, I believe.
Yeah, they don't want you working, they want you to succeed. Their goal is for you to succeed. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other candidates that could have filled that seat. Okay, these seats are precious, and you're wasting their time, and you're hurting somebody else if you're not really going to take this seriously. So just realize that going into grad school. I know a lot of you have worked your way through undergrad, but you will not be able to do that in grad school.
Casey mentioned last year about one of these repayments. I don't know, it was loan, one of them they might be doing away with.
Here in the state of Utah, they defunded one of those, but we're looking at getting it refunded again this year. Yep. Just remember, stay in touch with us if you're interested in loan repayment. Just shoot us an email.
Because like I said, there's a lot of these on here that
They
we're
change.
actually involved with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's it.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it for today. So you guys
Good. Yeah,
are free
we're happy to
yeah.
walk around and look at your stuff.
Were we going to talk about like the assistance programs, or was that?
Oh, I can share with you the fee
talk about
assistance
them.
programs.
I just heard about that.
Yeah, sorry. So if you want to apply for fee assistance, every single portal, every single CAS has a fee assistance, and every single entrance exam for grad school has a fee assistance program. So if you just Google MCAT fee assistance, AMCAS fee assistance, ACOMAS fee assistance, FarmCAS fee assistance, Every single CAS has a separate policy on how they determine that. So it's really hard for us to say if you are XYZ, you qualify. You have to submit your paperwork there. It's worth doing, okay? It typically goes back to your family of origin unless you've been independent for so many years. And every CAS is different. But it's a great opportunity for you to get some assistance if you qualify. And we're happy to talk you through that. But just know that you should be doing that now, early in the process, because it does take some time for them to process that. But if you are a non-traditional student, you've been out on your own for 10 years, and you've been in college, and you're struggling, and you're living on loans, chances are you're going to apply, and you're going to qualify, okay? Yes. Tim's going, hey, something came my way. I was gonna point you out, but I didn't want to.
Go for it.
But if you came from a family that where you lived a fairly comfortable upbringing, you've chosen to get married early, only in the last couple of years, typically you might not apply for that. You might not qualify. But we're happy to walk through that individually with you, unless you have questions. Okay? Good. I'm eager to see what you guys have been writing.